In today's episode of the Pathway Presents podcast, I got a very interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Robert Combier, and he's heading over from the folks over at Scope AR. And basically, I like the tagline that I got on the website: make anyone an instant expert. So AI basically helps them, to serve as a knowledge platform for remote assistance and instructions. So Robert, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Awesome. So maybe give people like a quick insight. What is Scope AR all about in your own words?
Yeah, sure. So Scope AR, as the name implies, is an augmented reality enterprise class solution. We've been around since 2011. And our focus, like the tagline says, is to make anyone an instant expert, specifically for the purpose of sharing organizational and institutional knowledge. We have a platform that executes that called WorkLink. It works across smartphones, tablets, and the wearable type devices you would traditionally associate with augmented reality, like the HoloLens and others.
Mm-hmm.
And our customers basically use those to provide efficient scaling for work instructions and remote support, to give you the information you need where you need it. And the best analogy to think of that is if you've watched the movie The Matrix, there's that part where Neo gets taught how to do Kung Fu in like 2.5 seconds. Yeah. We like to think of our platform as essentially delivering the same type of functionality where someone with virtually no training can perform at an expert level with just the tool guiding you for each step. So yeah, that's kind of the overview of WorkLink and Scope AR.
Awesome, very good. Now, in which type of use cases or circumstances do we find the technology being employed the most effectively?
Sure. So we have a variety of use cases for particularly aerospace and medical device companies. So if you think of making a rocket or an airplane, it's very critical that every bolt, every screw, every wire is routed and executed done 100% correctly. The reason for that is if you mess up even a single screw, it can cause loss of life or threats to your national security. We can all remember the space shuttle accident where a single fitting failed and caused a cascading series of events that unfortunately led to a loss of life. So for really critical use cases in the aerospace medical device industries, that's where it's important to have it 100% right 100% of the time. And augmented reality, when used correctly, is the best way to do that with a human in the loop. So think of as you assemble 1,000 pieces of a satellite or some medical device for testing COVID samples, for example. You want to make sure that every single step was done correctly. You want to be able to document that. And you want to be able to do that for really anybody that is available and working that day. So since the dramatic shift in the world marketplace in 2020, the skilled labor and availability and travel restrictions have really caused a variety of challenges in our customers. And fortunately, we've been able to solve those with augmented reality, sort of as your sidekick to help you get the job done, wherever that job is.
Makes a lot of sense. Very good. Now, who would be the individuals within those organizations that are, leveraging Scope that would actually be, reaching out to you guys and getting in contact? Like, what type of roles have that foresight?
Yeah, so the people that reach out to us typically are training instructors or manufacturing operations managers. It's folks that care a lot about, like as I said, human mistakes, human error. Mm-hmm. Clearly, training, that's their entire measurement system, is how well they can improve their labor and the skills that labor force has. So that's definitely when we pretty directly solve those problems. For manufacturing, it typically is operations folks who they're dealing with labor shortages, high turnover rate, lower incoming labor quality, or even globalized labor forces that have very different backgrounds. And so those are the typical cohorts that come and talk to us. But as I mentioned before, I mean, we're pretty pervasive through aerospace and medical industry, so people know who we are at this point.
Mm-hmm. Makes a lot of sense. Now, how do these guys learn about you? Like, what would you say are the channels? I mean, you mentioned a little bit. There's obviously the word going out, but like, what would you consider the main acquisition channels?
So we have a split strategy with events as well as inbound and partner referrals. So that is the bulk of our traffic comes through there. When people think of augmented reality, they typically think of the headset and the headset and the wearable first, and then they just Google, augmented reality headset enterprise. And so the first thing you'll get when you search that is obviously the devices themselves, but very quickly you'll get into the platforms. And it takes about 5 minutes in a discovery call for the customer or the prospect to realize that it's actually not about the headset or the wearable nearly as much as it is the use case and how well the software is optimized to that particular use case. So certainly there's an inbound component of it. We've had great success with our customers. We've now been in business 12 years. Mm-hmm. So unlike most augmented reality companies that were generated, last minute, yesterday, we had the benefit of a long history with customers that has allowed the word to spread organically, mm-hmm. as well as through our partner network of strategic technology and integration partners.
That makes sense. Very cool. What role would you consider the website plays in that journey?
So the website is one of these things where it's about, let's say we get into a larger purchasing motion with an enterprise customer. Website is typically the source of spot checking the next person who's part of that purchasing decision. And what I mean by that is, like, let's say there's a engineering or a manufacturing operator who is ready to move forward. They escalate it to their bosses and their peers. People tend to use the website to learn about something that's already in motion with our prospects, particularly the champion or the person leading that particular investigation. And so what we do a lot on our website is try to teach, okay, here's what augmented reality is, here's what WorkLink is, and here's what other customers are able to do. We don't provide pricing information nearly as much as you would think of as a typical SaaS platform. So the website is not used for closing a sale per se. It's definitely much more for informing people that are tangent to the buying process.
That makes sense. Very good. Is there something that you've learned, on that type of buyer's journey when we talk about this more enterprise solutions, these complex solutions, really, when it comes to driving conversions on the website? Any learnings that you got? Any tools, methods, approaches that you picked up over the years?
Yeah, I mean, certainly industrializing the content for the target market is pretty huge. So because augmented reality is broadly applicable to just about every vertical, I mean, think of doing anything and trying to figure out how to do that. Mm-hmm. Most people nowadays, when they have a problem with their car or their HVAC unit or something, they're going to Google, how do I light the pilot for my water heater on YouTube? And so there's a huge how do I do it on YouTube type of motion. When it comes to really more complicated use cases, like how do I get my training staff to fix this exact specific problem that I'm having in building COVID testing equipment, you're not going to really look on YouTube for that, right? And so when we present content and case studies that support what we can do, we try to be very narrow in our industrial focus, such that our target customers can see that other organizations like them in their cohort can and have had success with this. I mean, part of the challenge of being augmented reality and like AI and machine learning and NFTs or any of these sort of bleeding edge technologies, there's a lot of hype and there's a lot of marketing and there's not a lot of case studies.
Yep.
So we try to put the case studies front and center, and we try to make the geometric distance, if you will, between the case study example and our target customer as narrow as possible.
I like how you expressed that, the geometrical difference. That's very good. Super interesting. Cool. I would like to switch gears a little bit and talk with you about your journey as a marketer. There is so much content out there for marketers, right? You could be turning left and right, blogs, peer groups, podcasts, whatever. Like, where do you personally find high quality information for your marketing practice?
Where do I find high quality information for marketing purposes?
Mm-hmm. For yourself, like to keep on educating yourself.
Well, we have a variety of partners, and then just professionally, I keep a network of other heads of marketing that I make sure that I'm not sort of behind the curveball on. So there's a social validation piece of that for sure. There's the occasional marketing conference and technology presented there. But yeah, I would say that just like any other technology that's shopping, or any other sort of business function that's shopping for technology for automation, I just search through Google and try to find things that solve my explicit problems, versus just hyper generalized tools that can solve a million things. So yeah, I would say we shop just like anybody else through peer networks, as well as just Google searches.
Very good. Now, so I got some rapid fire questions to wrap it up for today. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, hit me.
What's the last book you read?
The last book I read, Thinking Fast and Slow.
What's one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Marketing automation.
If there would be no boundaries in tech, you have a magic wand, what's the one thing you would fix for your role as a marketer?
Hiring.
If you could snap your finger and there would be one task that might be repetitive or you have to do often as a marketer, and you could get it off your plate, which one would that be?
Lead qualification.
And for the very last question, if today would be your very first day joining Scope as a marketer, what's the one advice you would give yourself for your journey?
I would say not to underestimate the complexities of a marketing automation platform, and its integration to CRM, and that's pretty critical.
Yep, makes a whole lot of sense. Actually, we heard that quite a lot. It always sounds very easy, but then
yeah,
a lot of work.
We'll migrate you to HubSpot in 1 week or less. No, you won't.
Very good. Very good. Okay, cool. Robert, I really appreciate you joining us today to give us an insight on what Scope is all about. I want to give you the very last word. If people would be forgetting all that we discussed about Scope, what's the one thing people should remember? That
when it comes to learning how to do things that are very complicated and critical, you should not underestimate the power of augmented reality, particularly with Scope AR.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Platform Presents.
My pleasure.